From Southern Maryland's weather leader, this is a JB Weather Alert.
Good morning, I'm Forecaster John Bordash with you in the JB Weather Center this morning to give you a Tuesday morning update on what looks to be a high-impact weather day as a powerful system moves through the Great Lakes today, bringing rain, wind, and coastal flooding threats to much of the mid-Atlantic. We will begin to see conditions deteriorate as we approach the lunch hour, and we will see the peak of our rain and wind impacts as we move through the afternoon and evening hours. I'd really be looking at a timing of anywhere between about 3 o'clock this evening through 10 o'clock tonight to see some of the heaviest rains and to see some of the gustiest winds. We could be looking at localized flash flooding across the region, and that combination of 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches of rain, along with damaging wind gusts upwards of 50 to potentially 60 miles per hour could definitely lead to scattered outages, especially for our immediate coastal locations. And all of this will work together to definitely create some of those travel impacts. We do have several school systems that have decided to go ahead and close early for today. School districts such as Anne Arundel, Calvert, and St. Mary's counties have already made that call, and I'm sure that list is likely to change. So you're going to want to stay up to date with your school officials to see what the latest plan of action is. I do want to take you on over to our Cedar Point Federal Credit Union Futurecast as it times things out. And as we move towards about 10 o'clock this morning, we start to see that rain overspread much of the region, with some of the more moderate rains hanging just back to our west. Playing things out, though, we see that rain becomes much more widespread as we move into the afternoon hours, with pockets of more moderate rain beginning to become more widespread. And tonight, we start to see that heavy rain really start to take hold of the mid-Atlantic. This is Futurecast stopped at 7 o'clock this evening. We see pockets of locally heavy rain, and those downpours could definitely cause localized flash flooding. Futurecast does begin to move all of this out, though, as we approach midnight. So it really is between about 3 o'clock and about 10 or 11 o'clock today where we're looking at some of those highest impacts. Taking on over to our Futurecast rain totals, our Cedar Point Federal Credit Union Futurecast is painting a general 1 to 2 inches of rain across the area, with locally higher totals of 2.5 to potentially 3 inches in spots where we see heavy rain repeatedly move over the same area. And the technical term for that would be called training. It's kind of like your train tracks with a train continuously going over. So when we get that train to take effect, we could see upwards of 3 inches of rain, but I think a general rule of thumb is about 1 to 2 inches of rain. As a result, we do have an elevated to significant risk of flash flooding across the region for today. The highest risk will be for those urban areas where the water has very little places to go, but much of the region is looking at that flooding risk given the wet 6 weeks we've had across the mid-Atlantic. It will not take much for localized flash flooding to take effect on area roadways, so do expect delays and potential road closures, especially this evening. We are also going to be taking a look at damaging winds across the region. Our highest winds are going to be found along our bayside locations and in areas like Calvert, St. Mary's, Anne Arundel, southern Baltimore counties, and the lower Delmarva. This is where we have that high wind warning in effect for this afternoon and evening. Winds in these locations could gust upwards of 55 to 60 miles per hour as winds come out of the southeast. Elsewhere, I'm expecting wind gusts upwards of 40 to 50 miles per hour further inland, and multiple wind advisories are in effect for those locations. That onshore wind flow, though, is going to be bringing that threat of coastal flooding. Coastal flood warnings are in effect for just about every county that we cover in the immediate southern Maryland area. We could be looking at upwards of 2 to 4 feet of tidal rise for many locations right along the Chesapeake Bay, the Patuxent, and the Potomac rivers, and some of our back bays. Taking a look at 2 locations, this would be the river forecast for the Patuxent River at Solomon's Island. The National Weather Service is expecting a crest this evening of 4.6 feet, which is just shy of our record-setting value of 4.8 feet. So I would expect high impacts down towards Solomon's. We could be looking at flooding on some of those smaller roadways such as Charles Street, and for some of those back bays and parking lots to begin to flood. As we take a look at St. George Creek at Straits Point, that's taking a look over at St. George Island, the National Weather Service is expecting a record-setting 4.9-foot surge and tidal rise in this location as we head through tonight as we approach 3 a.m. So do note that this means that high impacts are going to be likely. That local bridge is definitely going to be impacted, and this could sever some connections as high tide is around. And we're going to keep this coastal flooding threat through the day tomorrow and likely to begin our day on Thursday. All in all, we are looking at a high-impact weather event across the region. We're going to be looking at some of those worst impacts to move through the southern Maryland area this evening, and you're going to want to stay weather aware. I'll have live coverage here from the Storm Center starting about 4 o'clock when I get home from a full day of teaching. You can always get the latest updates on JB Weather and over at jbweather.net, and you can access our live interactive radar at jbweather.net/radar. Any alerts will be auto-posted throughout the day. I'm Forecaster John Bordash. Thank you for joining me this morning. Please stay safe out there, and please keep it tuned right here to JB Weather for the latest information.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.net.